Yeah, get it on. Welcome back to Nice to Full, brought to you by Fitlab. Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Carbon Cycles. Hey, bike racing on the weekend. Let's talk about the Rua 50. Well, I had a picture up there just before of my position I used on the weekend, which was a little bit modified from the legal UCI position. Made a little bit better drag for this club race. Worked out pretty good. I won. I'll tell you some discoveries I made about the bike setup and how to go fast. We'll preview some big time trials coming up at the Centre Champs next weekend and this coming weekend, I guess, and the National Champs 2 weeks time. 3 weeks. Yeah, end of April. We'll talk about some tweaks I've made to the bike. What else are we going to talk about? Oh yeah, something I found about doing a long training rides, how to get through it. So let's look at a couple of other little bits and pieces. Sorry I didn't do a video last week. So what do we have? The Rua 50, the confusingly named 80-kilometre time trial around Lake Wairarapa. Great conditions, as opposed to the gale force wind we had the last time we did it at the end of 2017. It changed to April this year because there was roadworks earlier in about November when they were going to run it. So what was I going out here to do? I had analysed beforehand the power I wanted to put out to get the all-time record. The all-time record on this course is held from Dave Rollins, who set a 1 hour 49 and a half or so minute time about 2014 or 2013, I think. The club record is probably about in the top 5 times ever. That was held by Lee Campbell at 1:54 and change. So goal A for me was to get Lee's record, and my stretch goal B, is to get Dave's. I did get the club record, I didn't get Dave's. I worked out ahead of time that on this course, averaging about 320 watts or so should get me close to that 149. It turned out my math on that was very good. If we look at it, my actual time, well, I've got moving time here of 1:53.21. So my real time was probably just a couple of seconds faster than that. 80.4 kilometers, 2,122 kilojoules, so about 8 or 9 McDonald's hamburgers there. 42.5 kilometer average. I needed about just under 44 k an hour to get the record. Average power of 312 watts, which is right where I wanted to be, pretty much, for an effective power of 315. Heart rate 147 average, cadence 88, all pretty normal for a TT. So I went about as good as I could do. The day before this event, I did multiple lactate tests on myself at 300 watts on the trainer to determine my lactate concentration. 300 watts on the trainer will equal about 310 to 320 watts on the road. And at that level, I did 3. I was at 2.7, 2.5, and 2.8 millimoles, something like that, which for me, that's the top end of my aerobic capacity, meaning I can do that kind of all day in TT position, well, not all day, for a few hours. It's a safe level, meaning that I'll probably have a little extra for a little burst in the end, take me up over 3 millimoles. Anything getting up to about 4 millimoles is going to be unsustainable for any more than about 20 minutes, half an hour. So that's what I base that on. And so you can see, yeah, it pretty much worked out. 312 watts brought me a time of 1:53 and change. So I was happy with that. conditions were semi-perfect. It could have been, I'd be picky to say anything about it. It was pretty still. And so actually it provides quite a good ability to analyze your drag when it's still. I did that and I got 0.245. I don't know why my drag was higher. It's possible that the drag coefficient on this road surface should be put a little higher because a lot of it's pretty coarse. So it's possible my drag is like more like 0.24 or thereabouts. So look, that's the Rua. Just analysis from a coaching perspective was pretty nice, flat pacing, nothing crazy, into position pretty quick, and target power. You want to be in any time trial almost into target power and position speed within about 30 seconds, putting no matches up front. And that's pretty good. So the way the results came out, see if I got it up here. We had my official time was 1:53.22. Tush Robinson doing a great ride in 1:58.48, and Jack Polly in third in 1:59.22. They were the only three riders to make it in under 2 hours. First woman, Angela Campbell, 2:55. There was a 2-up team that came in under 2 hours, which was excellent riders from Rivet, Peter Mora and Matt Seeley, coming in at 1:58. That was it. A bunch of guys turned up from New Caledonia under Chris Jenner to get a little bit of local riding. I'm guessing they're going to plan to do some riding. Chris Jenner, old ex-pro from Credit Agricole, does have a stage win of the Tour de France to his name. Not on his own, but as part of the Credit Agricole team around about 2001, won the team time trial. So he's probably got one of those little lines in his room. I didn't really see him or recognise him, but I would have said hi if I sort of had. All right, so that was the Rua. The week before, the week before was a graded road race around the Gladstone circuit, and I put my hand up to Marshall on this one because it wasn't wildly important. So I was kind of a new thing happened. I wanted to ride 200 Ks in one day, and I figured that because my previous longest ride had been 160, so I wanted to see what it was like to ride 200 Ks in one day, albeit with a little break for marshalling in the middle. And I figured that by riding from Wellington to Gladstone and back with a little bit of extra faff ground would get me there, and it was about perfect. It did get me to almost exactly 200. Starting up pretty early in the morning, 5:30. Still arrived late. Took a bit longer than I expected. Here's what I'm saying. Maybe the big takeaway is, really once you get over, I think, as long as the weather's not bad, once you get over about 100 Ks, 100 Ks is kind of the same as 150 Ks, is the same as 200 Ks, presumably is the same as 250 Ks, as long as, you're not in pain from a weird bike setup, as long as you're fueling reasonably well, good fats and proteins in there, maybe from the odd pie stop or something. It's sort of interesting how you get that weird curve. It's like, the curve of difficulty to distance isn't linear. It's like, the opposite of the curve that goes, the exponential curve, sort of doesn't really get any harder. And the longer you go, it's less hard than it was, which is a terrible way of describing it. Here's what I'd say. If you're going to do a long ride, and I recommend you doing your base build up, this is not really the case for me, I just want to do something hard. Pick a good weather, fuel well, and then realise in your mind that once you're about 100 Ks, you'll be able to ride 200 just fine. That's what I think. That was my experience. Weather's important though, here's a couple of bits you might be interested in if you didn't know. Two big races coming up that I mentioned before. It's the Wellington Centre Champs, hosted by Kapiti. If you go to the Kapiti Cycling Club website, you can enter the time trial and the road race. You can see the maps and all that stuff. The course is 113k for most Masters riders, 113k Gladstone and sort of lap, and the Wairarapa 2-lapper, and the time trials at Kahutra. Only 25k for most riders, even a shorter version for some of the older grades. Down in Timaru Internationals, you can go to both websites and enter, but also see who else has entered. I discovered this morning when I was flicking through the Cycling New Zealand website. So, a couple of things. Why don't I just show you? See, there's the, so here's the, if you're looking at the screen, you just go to kapiticyclingclub.co.nz, click through to the Wellington Centre Road Cycling Champs 2019 event guide, scroll down, and then you get to see, if you click on entry, it's a web scorer page. If you click on that, and then up the top right, it says confirmation list, you can view who's entered. And there's only, as I say this on Monday morning, there's only 11 people entered so far in the 25k, and 6 in the 17.5. So time's running out. It could be small fields. The Nationals is going to be much bigger, of course, down Timaru. You can figure out who's entered by going through the events page, heading through Vantage Age Group Road National Cycling Champs, scrolling down, hitting program, scrolling down, hitting entry. Now, obviously, this takes you to where you can enter, but if you scroll down, you can hit check your entry here. This takes you through to a searchable little sort of spreadsheety database thing of who has entered. If I'm going to look at Division or Master 2 male time trialists, it's pretty fast to refresh. You can just hit move through here, click, click, click. Here we go. I don't know how to separate out the road and the TT. Who do we like? We'll just go down the list here. I'd like to do well in the TT, but there's some big boys in there. Andy Hilton, I think he's quite good. Paul Odlin, ex-New Zealand champ time trialist, is in my grade. Damn it. And he's a big, strong boy. He will probably be out for the win in the Master Men 2 time trial. There's me there, hoping to do okay. There's lots of entries in there. Must be 20, 30 entries in just Master 2 alone already, and that's going to go up. I can't guess all the names, but that's Craig Domigan, he's good. Yeah, a lot of guys from down south doing it. Good courses. That's how you see who's in. So go through the Cycling New Zealand website and have a little peek through. You want to know who you're up against, and then do some Strava stalking. See what they're capable of. How I roll. What else we got? As far as it comes to these events, the Centre Champs and the National Champs, if you are riding a time trial, you need to make sure that your bicycle is within the UCI regulations. And I won't tell you what they all are now, but they do come along and they do measure it before you can ride. And here's the problem. If you've got a bike that doesn't meet the regulations in the jig, you'll be forced to change it, if you can, change it, and then you'll be riding in an unfamiliar position. And secondly, sometimes, as we discovered last year with a few bikes, namely from Trek, they were actually unable to be put in the UCI regular position. They just didn't have settings for it. Here's what I'm saying. Well, that's interesting actually, because I was looking in the time trial bike market recently, and the thing is that UCI legal time trialing is not a big enough market for businesses to really worry too much about. They're much more focused on the tri scene. And if you look at bikes, like I was looking at a Cervelo S5, it's wildly different what you can, the bikes which are TT legal, UCI legal, and the ones that are tri bikes, triathlon or Ironman bikes that don't have the same regulations. It's kind of like looking at, I don't know, say you had a race car, say you had a Porsche 911, that's your TT UCI legal bike, and then see a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, that's your triathlon bike. Same thing, quite a lot different. Lots of big fairings and stuff you're allowed under the guise of containing fluid and stuff like that, especially for the Ironman bikes, and that's a big aerodynamic improvement. The UCI ostensibly has these regulations in place so that there's some sort of equaling of the playing field in terms of equipment. So here's the thing. Best thing for you to do, I think, if you want to check your bike, is just get out a chunk of, I don't know, like straight wood or something, and make some marks on it and do some measurements. Here's the key ones. You've got to make sure, here's the number one. Your saddle nose has to be 5 centimeters behind the bottom bracket, or can be up to in line with the bottom bracket. But how you have that also affects the distance between the tip of your extensions and your bottom bracket. And you've got to measure all this up and be super accurate about it. Otherwise you will get DQ'd or not even allowed to start. The second biggie, amongst other things, is the height that your handlebar extension tips can be vertically above the bottom part of the bottommost part of your arm pads on your extensions, namely 10 centimeters. The idea with that is too that you can't bring your hands up in front of your face for much of a aero advantage. Your forearms are more or less flat, and to even things up a bit. So if you want a good resource to see this with a diagram, you can go to, if you go to road.cc, there's a good article there by Matt Brett, December 23, 2013. If you just type it in the search, you'll find it. Road.cc, and it's by Matt Brett, 23rd of December 2013. UCI clarifies time trial position rules. Scroll through that and it'll give you the guts and diagrams so you can do your measurements and you don't get caught out riding an unfamiliar position or not being able to ride at all and spending all that money to go. By the way, I have seen, it sounds a little too dramatic, but I have seen firsthand the situation where people turn up, they've spent a lot of money in time training and all that, and told they can't ride, which is going to be a bit of a letdown. One more thing about setup and bike before I go. I've noticed that, here's what I think about TT bike gearing. In flat TTs, kind of the bigger the better. I'm talking about chainring. And cassette, you want ideally some sort of straight block. So, and I reckon single ring is the way to go. So there's a couple of things there. Bigger is better, meaning I'm running the Rotor Q ring now, and I'll be running a 54, which is kind of like the equivalent of like 56 or something when it's on the big part, and equivalent of like 52 when it's on the small part. But 50, this is called a 54 on average, with a relatively straight 11-speed block, something like, I don't know, 2312 or whatever it is, Ultegra cluster. And here's what's going to happen is if you run that, you're going to find that the chain has got to deform less because it's going around a bigger ring at the front, and more often than not, a bigger circle at the back. Because of the bigger ring at the front, you'll use a gear or two higher at the back as well, so the chain is deforming less. The bearings and rollers in the chain are deforming less, giving you a couple of free extra watts, which for a 25k time trial, if that gives you the second or two, that gets you from second place to first on the podium, I'll take that all day, baby. Second thing, that single ring, I've got a setup here which is SRAM red ETAP. I've siliconed the blip box right onto the stem so it's as low as possible out of the wind. I've siliconed the computer in behind the blip box so it's all in line out of the wind, not between my arms. Go single speed, you can have a blip, or shifter if you like, on for up. There you go, clonk. Don't forget that. On the right hand side, down, on the left hand side, and then on the hand holdy pieces, the base bar, or down the side again, one on the right, shift down, and up on the left, or whatever you want to do there. That's a nice setup, and you don't have the extra weight of the extra ring if you're running a single ring, and you don't have the wind drag as well. I'll be running a proper TT ring for a little bit less aero drag on the chain ring. So there's that. That is that, and that's my little setup. Oh, one more thing I discovered. Okay, I'll leave you with this. I've got the handlebar extension setup is the ETAP blip shifters contained within the blip containment device vessel thingy that slides over the bar. And so what it is it holds on, it clamps onto the bar, holds the blip in place, gives you a little hand hold. That's what it does. What I've done, normally people have that right on the tips of the extensions. What I've done is I've got those sitting about 4 to 5 centimeters down the bar. So the bar is sliding right through those blip extensions, those blip holders. And you've got just 4 or 5 centimeters of exposed bar sitting out the end there. And what's happening there is I'm kind of I've got my position here, got my little fingers. I'll turn on, here we go. I'll turn on this, maybe you can see what I'm talking about. See here? I'll just center it on that. So you've got the bar comes right through this blip holdy piece, that's the shifter. Down, up. And this is the exposed piece of bar. And so normally what people are going to do, that's my hot move, in a time trial you really want to have your hands up in front of your face as far as possible. See, in this position, it's very difficult to do that because this is the UCR legal position. Here's the tip. Normally if you have these blip holders right at the end, you're going to have your grip. It's going to have to be pretty much here, right? But if you've got these little bits of exposed bar, the height is still the same. What I can do is just wrap my little slowly for your fingers around. And if I open up this hand, you can see that it's only really going about halfway up my hand, giving me about 4 or 5 extra centimeters height in front of my face, and actually a lot of stability. It's a nice position to hold, and you can get a little extra hand height, this little freaky deaky move with your blip holders. You can't do that with a regular shifter, but you can with these. And so, I don't know if this is really the best way to do it, but you can see I'm riding along here. I have like a frontal shot. Let's have a look. Okay, here's my frontal. I'm riding along. It's more or less going to be my shrug. If I move my hands to the traditional position, look at that. My face sticking right out in the wind. Okay, so this is the non-Steve tweak position. Man, I'm right hanging up there. All I do now is just move my hands to the Steve Hot Turbo Boost position. Look at that. Oh, baby! Look at that. How much of that face and chest that's shielding now. Whoop, 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 whoop. So, got a little handlebar extension hot talk for you. All right, so one more thing, I will be using the cramp fix on my road races. It saved me 4 out of 5 of the last races I've done from cramping. It does work on the nerve stimulation mechanism. You can Google that, which I just had a GP I tested last week confirm that is the best evidence for curing cramps at the moment, is the nerve stimulation method. Go and Google that. That's what Cramp Fix has. You can go to the link on my video down the bottom, or if you're looking at this on my blog or whatever, 022sports.co.nz. Go on there by Cramp Fix by Tailwind. You can use my discount code, Fitlab Steve, I think it is. The code is on the video to get Cramp Fix. That'll help me because I see the sale come through, and it'll help you because you won't cramp anymore. I'll also be having my bike looked at and checked by Capital Cycles. I will be, what's what I'll be doing? I will damn sure be using the chamois cream from Biomaxa in my filthy, sweaty crotch to stop getting chafing. 80 Ks yesterday, and I did get a tiny, it was actually to do with my bibs. They weren't that great. Wasn't my sweaty crotch stayed lubed as usual. I got a tiny little bit of rash on one side, but fine. And the lube, if you use the Biomaxa lube, there's a discount code, go to biomaxa.co.nz. It stays clean, it's really dry, it's really like waxy, it gets in there, you wipe it off, and you don't get it dirty, and it stays on in wet, crappy conditions whilst dry it. Thank you too. One last thing. Thank you too. All the guys who came along. It was good turnout for the TT yesterday. And the manager, Garth Stewart, marshals, Doug Barrett, John Ronson, Brian Graham, Jason Fox, Jill Gray, Mark Neeson, Joe Neeson, Richard Van Lien, Isco Wiltshire, Joe Neeson giving up her own desires on the Rua to do this to marshal. So thank you. So this weekend, Centre Champs, TT Saturday, Road Race Sunday, Kapiti Cycling Club hosting Tohutra and Marston, Gladstone, for the Road Race and TT respectively. Come and see me. Get it on. As usual, I'll see you there.